if we're after disciples who multiply, if we're after living out these 10 principles, well, then what scorecard would make sense that would actually lead us to that outcome?
You could have lots of things that on the surface look really good, but no actual movement's happening.
Are our people looking and loving and acting more like Jesus? And are they seeing the worth of his kingdom, like the pearl of great price, like the treasure hidden in the fields? Are they growing in valuing and giving up things and sacrificing for the sake of that kingdom coming to earth? Well, if you have stuck with us for all 10 principles, let's just applaud them, can we?
Yeah, all kinds of applause.
Can we give them a golf clap?
Can we get some applause in post? Surely that's possible.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
A ruckus crowd. Everyone's...
Can we
you made it.
have
You did
balloons
it.
fall from the... From? I think they could do that.
Surely that
too.
can be arranged.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like wherever anyone is watching.
In the homes of everyone listening. In your car right now.
If that's
balloons.
the miracle that God decides to do through our lives, it would be...
That's awesome. Yes. So
no, not that. Balloons from the ceiling.
Balloons from the ceiling. Yeah, exactly. So if you don't know what we're talking about, we are at the very end of a series on 10 principles that are for disciple making. And this is going to be the big last number 10. Boom. And here it is.
The payoff right here.
Are you ready? The payoff.
I hope this doesn't disappoint.
It better not.
The anticipation.
The best disciple-making churches and movements across the world have reinvented their scorecard.
Come on. They reinvented the scorecard.
Yes, they've reinvented their scorecard. Why don't you unpack that for us, Jace? Okay, what we mean by that?
Oh, what are you...
Well, let me ask you
What are you
this.
supposed to be counting, right?
What is the talk to us about this. In the last, let's say, 50 years of U.S. Christianity, Western Christianity, what has been the normal scorecard for churches?
Oh, it's there's a lot of great ways of putting this. I've heard nickels and noses.
Nickels and noses.
Nickels and noses.
Okay.
I've
Which is
heard,
implying money and attendance.
Yep. I've heard some form of dollars and butts.
I've heard bucks, butts, and budgets.
Hey, that's all very alliterative.
Or buildings. Buildings, bucks, and budgets.
That's
no,
it.
buildings, bucks, and butts. That's what it is. I got it.
Okay.
Bobby would say at D.org, it's preaching, praise and worship, and programs.
Okay, that's like probably a more recent representation of... Because everybody knows. I mean, nobody's going to go like, yeah, all we count is how many people show up and how much money they give.
That's all.
Like, oh, wow, okay.
All we care about.
Really? Wow.
How many people we got coming into that door and how many dollars are they putting in that plate?
That guy's not been paying much attention over the last 25 years to what God is doing in the church.
Right. Yep.
But I get that we would measure success that way. Because
but that's the traditional scorecard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we're measuring success. So, and the reason why this conversation is so important, man, is if we're going to see disciples who make disciples, and remember, these are the principles around disciple making. So why would a scorecard matter if it comes to disciple making?
You're going to reproduce what you track.
There you go.
It's if you're not paying attention to it, then what do you think is going to happen?
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what you track and what you measure is usually what gets repeated, and what people go for, right? So, for example, see, this is the big thing that sometimes it's so simple, but we forget it. Like we get distracted, right? Like going back to the last principle, we get distracted with a bunch of other stuff. But it's like, could you imagine if you're playing, I don't know, like let's say you're playing basketball, and there's a scoreboard up there. And there's only one way you get points up on that board, okay? And it's putting the ball through the hoop, okay? That's it, right? But could you imagine if somebody's off on the sidelines and they're like tracking how many times you dribble the ball? It's like, dude, that guy dribbled 172 times. I can't believe it. It's a new record. It's like, Who cares, bro? You didn't put a ball in the hoop, you know? Like, I can just picture the dude right now in my mind. I don't know why. But
he's got a record. This is a record. Nobody's dribbled this much ever.
This is the best dribbler ever.
I've never seen anything like this.
But anyway, the truth is, like, how often are we actually celebrating things that in all reality aren't putting points up on the board kingdom-wise? You know what I mean? Like, again, not that attendance doesn't matter. Getting people in the room, yeah, they could have an encounter with God. That's awesome. That's beautiful. But attendance alone, it doesn't mean there's any score up on the kingdom scoreboard. You know what I mean? Like, we could have people showing up and nothing happening and them not really being impacted. We could have people giving a bunch of money, but it never really changing their heart very much, you know? And so what are I guess what I'd love to talk about in this episode is movements across the world, churches that are really going after disciple making. What are the shifts they're actually making in their scorecard? What should we be tracking? What should we be measuring? What should we be celebrating so that it can be repeated, so that many people can really know what target we're aiming at and what actually counts when we're shooting the ball, right? Like, what puts a score on the board?
Yeah.
So what do you think? What are some things that, you guys are thinking about at the church, and maybe even some that you've heard from, movement practitioners across the world?
Yeah. Tell us again. You said this last episode. You've got this thing distilled down for you guys to two things that you're doing. Tell us again.
In India?
Yep.
Yeah, we train the saved and we save the lost.
Seems like pretty good things to measure.
Right. And we do. Like, and just to throw it out there, let me pull something up really quick. I'll tell you, that's actually a really good idea. I can pull up one of our scorecards from this last year. So as of the recording of this, this would have been all of 2024 in the movement itself.
It's currently 2025.
Yes, it's currently 2025.
If you happen to be listening to this sometime in the next decade, catching up on your
right now 2025
podcasts. For
those of you listening in 2037,
this is vintage. The shelf life on this podcast is decades. That'd be amazing. It's because of the balloons falling from the ceiling, the miracle.
Exactly, because of that miracle. Anyway, so last year, our people in India, trained 58,539 people on how to be disciples who make disciples with simple, reproducible tools on how to get out there and get the job done. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So train the saved, it was 58,000. Save the lost, our people brought to Jesus last year 82,340 people. Dude, that is crazy.
They're doing all right.
Out loud. They're doing okay.
They're doing all right.
They're doing okay. Like, there's some room for growth there, but it's acceptable. It's acceptable. They didn't get a Christmas bonus, but it was acceptable.
It's a good start.
It's a good start.
Well, it is, right? This is you think about the snowball effect of multiplication.
It is,
man, you hear guys like Ed Stetzer and Dave Ferguson years ago talk about inflection points in church planting graphs. In the macro sense, this still holds true in a micro sense. When disciples are making disciples, there's a multiplicative exponential effect to what is happening there.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important, because what we, like you said a few minutes ago, what we measure matters. What we track matters. It's what gets repeated and celebrated. And so there's a few things. I mean, when we started reinventing our scorecard in South Asia, we began to shift it to stuff like this. How many people are getting trained? How many people are coming to faith? But then we're tracking the generational growth of churches. So we are tracking how many churches are started. But what I'm a lot more interested in is also like how many generations of churches.
Yeah,
so
right.
If a church is started, is that giving birth to another church that gives birth to another church that gives birth to another? Same way in disciple making. If we make a disciple, that's awesome, and I want to celebrate that and know that number. But more importantly, I want to know how many generations of disciples are we seeing, right? And so I wish I had it with me right now, but I could show you a generational map of churches that we have that, I mean, we've got some parts of our movement that are going 7, 8, 9, 10 generations of churches all the way down the line, man.
Yeah.
Like this church started this church started this church 7, 8, 9 times like that, which is beautiful. And then if we track disciples like that, I mean, you could go 10, 15 generations of just a disciple who made a disciple who made a disciple who made a disciple. And it's like, it is crazy to see what the Lord is doing. And when we start tracking stuff like that, like what if we cared more about how many baptizers we have instead of baptisms? Now, baptism should be celebrated. I mean,
Absolutely.
it is a incredible moment of celebration for the kingdom.
Yeah.
But if we're really talking about disciples who make disciples, what if we also celebrated, along with our baptisms, how many people are baptizing their friends, family, coworkers, and they're the ones who led them to faith? And we're lifting that up and celebrating the baptizer just as much as we're celebrating how many baptisms we have, right?
Yeah.
Or what if we care a lot more about how many disciple makers we have rather than just how many people are walking through our door on a Sunday? Because a disciple maker, now that's somebody who's out there doing it, right? Church attendees, some of them are going to be doing stuff, some of them not, right? But a disciple maker, they're really going to be making it happen.
I just had the funniest picture pop in my head. Somebody got baptized, and you walk up to the two people, and you walk right past the person that got baptized, and you give the baptizer a big hug. Yes, yes,
you're the man.
We celebrate you. Person who just got baptized is like, what?
What? I thought I just got baptized.
You turn around like, you better baptize somebody.
Okay, it's probably not the best image. We need to celebrate both. You know what I'm saying.
I do enjoy trying to twist your words, though.
Well, what's funny, dude, is I can't tell you how many churches I've sat in over the years because, you know, my time in India, one way that God really there was a massive blessing and honestly an honor and a privilege that I was able to be a part of was because we were working in India. We had several supporting churches and leaders in America that would call us when we were home in America to come and speak and preach. And so I got to travel quite a bit when I was home and share at different churches and stuff. And I loved it, man. I loved going and sharing what God was doing in India and thanking them for their support and all of that. It was incredible. But what I also got to see is the way churches tracked things and celebrated things, because I would sit through their services, right? And I can't tell you how many times unintentionally, like this was very unintentional on the church's part, but when they would show like a testimony video, right, where it ended up being that something along these lines, the crescendo of the testimony was usually something like this: this church changed my life, or pastor so-and-so changed my life, which again, I know it's good intention and I know it's good-hearted, but who's the hero of that story, man? Like and there were a few times, man, that in a testimony video, Jesus wasn't even mentioned. It's like I started sending this church, I started sending a small group, I got involved here and there, and this church changed my life, and now I'm involved in this ministry, X ministry, Y ministry, whatever. And it's like, okay, that's honestly a great story, and I love that. But we've unintentionally started tracking and celebrating and lifting up something that really just promotes the brand of the church or the pastor's name, where Jesus isn't the hero any longer as much, and the reproduction of disciples really isn't the core thing that we're trying to celebrate and push people into. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't want to be critical.
Part of laser focus.
Yeah, right.
Laser focus. So the metrics of what we do should have something to do with the laser focus, right?
Absolutely.
I think about I was in a church culture that was really good at promoting apprenticeship in their small group leaders. And one of the challenges, though, is that the value of having an apprentice as a small group leader was so high that it was a very clear expectation. Everyone knew if you're leading a small group, you should have an apprentice. What was so funny about it, though, is there would be people that made sure they satisfied the requirement of having an apprentice, and it could be another couple in the small group that they're really good friends with. Some were even clever enough just to have their spouse be their apprentice.
Yeah.
And then they could check the box when they were asked, hey, do you have an apprentice? Yeah, I have an apprentice. No, I've had the same apprentice for 7 or 8 years, but I do have an apprentice.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the purpose of an apprentice.
Right.
It's not to have an apprentice. It's to send and launch an apprentice. And so, what happens that instead of just measuring who's got an apprentice, what if we start measuring who's being sent?
Yeah. Right.
Who gets launched?
Absolutely. That's so good, man. In Indy, another shift that we made that I think would be hopefully helpful for the listeners is we started to make a distinction in what we were tracking and what our scorecard was between things that were controllable and things that were uncontrollable. Or to put it in business terms, leading and lag indicators, right? But the leading and lag indicators are, like for example, that's why we used more simple language around controllable, uncontrollable, because the truth is, a lot of what I saw us tracking on our traditional scorecard were super uncontrollable things.
Yes.
Like when we track how many baptisms there are, that's amazing. But the truth is, I have no real control over that.
You don't control all the baptisms happening?
Yeah, right. Only God does that. I can't control how many people say yes to Jesus. Like, that's up to him. I can't control realistically how many people attend my church. That's completely up to them. And so we found it super helpful for personal responsibility and being able to celebrate things even if there's not immediate fruits.
Yeah.
Because the danger is when you're tracking uncontrollable things, when you don't see those numbers beginning to rise, well, then you think you're doing something wrong, even though you may be doing the right things.
Right.
So we wanted to distinguish what are the controllable things that is fully 100% my responsibility as a follower of Christ, and then what are the things that are God's responsibility that we'll celebrate him and give him glory for when they happen, right? So for example, what are some controllables, uncontrollables? Uncontrollable. How many people come to faith? Fully uncontrollable. Controllable is how many times I share my faith each day or week or month. That is fully up to me.
Yeah.
That's not God's job. That's my job to open my mouth and tell somebody about Jesus.
Yep. You might not be able to control the circumstances or the occasions around it.
Exactly.
But you are complicit.
Yes. And I'm choosing how intentional I am with going among lost and hurting people.
Yep.
To have opportunities to share the gospel.
Yep.
That's fully, the burden of responsibility for that is on me, not on anybody else. Now, what they do with that when I throw the seeds of the gospel is completely up to them and God. That's them. But then it makes me understand, okay, I have a part to play in this that is fully, the 100% burden of responsibility is on me, right? Prayer. How much time I'm spending praying and what I'm praying about and all of that, fully my responsibility. Now, what God does after that, right? I mean, that's whether he answers or not, whether he heals or not, pick your prayer, that's fully up to him.
Yeah.
But how much time I'm intentionally spending in that space, 100% my responsibility. Fasting, that is a controllable. It is fully my responsibility. The spiritual impact that creates, all God's responsibility. Have no idea what he's going to do with it.
Yep.
But it's all on me, right? And so I want to encourage you guys, those are just a few examples. There's a bunch of them that we could give. But I want to encourage you guys, think about your scorecard, and I would even encourage you to make a distinction between the leading and lag indicators, the controllables and uncontrollables. That way you can start taking personal responsibility for the things that God's put on your hearts, and then you're allowing God to get to have the responsibility and the glory and the all the praise and honor for what he's done because of what he's done, because we can't control any of that.
Yeah.
And I think it will help us really begin to understand, okay, if we're after disciples who multiply, if we're after living out these 10 principles, well, then what scorecard would make sense that would actually lead us to that outcome? Amen?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Come on, somebody.
Man, it's easy to gloss over some things with things that go well. Mm-hmm. You could have lots of things that on the surface look really good, but no actual movement's happening. Lots of people showing up, but no disciples are being made.
Yeah.
What a scary reality that is. Now, we need to make sure that we we remember that God is so powerful that he can still bring about kingdom advancement even when we've messed this up and totally neglected his will and way. He's still that powerful. Yep. I'm going to tell you, though, I'm not really keen on making my strategy, hey, God, would you move totally and completely in spite of me? That I'm willfully and knowingly not going to do it your way, awesome. But would you do it anyway?
Yeah, right.
Like, no, Lord, I as I know and grow and learn more, I want to be obedient to your way, but I'm still desperately dependent on your help to make that happen.
Yep, absolutely, man. Well, and I love what you said, because we could be doing a lot of things and no disciples getting made. That was a major shift, man, we had to make in India. I was leading for several years a church planting school, okay? And this is just an example. I'll get to what you said in just a second, but I was leading a church planting school, and we did a bunch of research early on and realized that a lot of people that we were graduating out of the school ended up not going and planting churches. Like, they may join another ministry somewhere, they may join a church somewhere that's already established. But the whole goal of our college was to raise up church planters, like to go plant churches in unreached areas. Now, we had some who did it, but it wasn't the lion's share of people who were doing it. And so we began to shift everything, because not only did we want church planters, but once we shifted to disciple-making movements, man, we wanted to produce not only church planters, but movement makers, multipliers, guys and gals that were out there actually multiplying disciples and multiplying churches and multiplying the kingdom, right? And so we began to dream, what would it look like to create a movement maker factory, right? And we use the illustration of like a cell phone factory, right? Could you imagine if you're Apple and you've got a factory somewhere overseas, and you get it launched, you put all the money into it, it's ready to go, you turn it on, okay? You've got your whole staff there, hundreds of people, phones are popping out the other end, and 1 out of every 1,000 works. Like, dude, you go out of business, bro. Like, maybe you shouldn't be making cell phones, like there's something wrong. Right. And we realized in our college, if we wanted movement maker factory, if 1 out of every 100 was actually multiplying churches and disciples, dude, our factory's broke. We need something, right? What would it look like if we inject that same illustration into the church? Are we, by God, this is a question, are we by God called and designed to be a disciple maker factory? Is that what we're called to be? I think there's some argument there that probably that's what it should look like. And if 1 out of every few hundred are popping out the other end, real disciples of Jesus who are making more disciples of Jesus, is the factory working? You know what I mean? Like if that's the scorecard, we may need some work to do, right?
If the bar and the goal is just to get people to show up, then that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you're gonna get.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you just expect frustration whenever there are expectations. And if you're going to be in the scriptures, it's inevitable. If you're going to preach the scriptures, there are going to be things that are required of people following Jesus.
Yeah.
But if the thing that is measured as success is just getting people to show up, man.
Yeah.
I know of a church in the Midwest a couple of years ago that was saying, man, we need momentum, we need movement, decisions, commitment, all of we need people to take steps.
Yep.
They literally just started measuring next steps. Doesn't matter what it was. Every single time a person took a next step, regardless of what that was, they measured it.
Okay.
And then they kept it in front of the entire fellowship. Like, hey guys, here's where we are in the progress of getting, we're hoping, I don't remember what the number, it was something wild, like 16,000 steps to be taken or something.
Well, it better be 10,000 because that's how many you need to take every day to be healthy.
And there you go. 10,000.
10,000 steps.
Got to be 10,000.
Yes.
Got to be 10,000. It is very easy though, if the goal is for a few people to play and everybody else watch, to measure seats, to measure attendance,
right,
to measure sales.
Yeah.
This is not the Houston Rockets. This is not the NFL.
Yeah.
This is not what we're trying to build.
Yeah.
We're actually gathering a bunch of people. This is what's wild. Bonhoeffer said, when Christ calls a man, he bids him come and die. That's That's not something that you go, great.
That's a different scorecard.
This is a challenge. We're actually what an incredible thing when we're called to this, that it is something that Jesus is saying. It will cost you. It will cost you.
Yeah.
Not here's all the benefits to you. No, this will cost you everything.
Yeah.
The pearl in that field of such great price and of such great value is worthy of having everything that you own sold out in order to possess it.
Yeah.
That's how good this is.
Yeah. And what if that's a part of the scorecard? Like, are our people looking and loving and acting more like Jesus? And are they seeing the worth of his kingdom, like the pearl of great price, like the treasure hidden in the fields? Are they growing in valuing and giving up things and sacrificing for the sake of that kingdom coming to earth? Like, I mean, that's a high bar, right? In a good way.
Yep.
Like, what if that becomes a part of our scorecard? What if it becomes a part of our scorecard that people are they actually looking more like Jesus, and how much like Jesus are they actually looking, right? Yeah. I mean, now that's hard to quantify and measure, of course, but I think there are ways we could look into it. We could, there's all sorts of stuff on marriages being strong and, kids being raised well and the way the society is being reached around us and stuff like that. But
equip the saved, save the lost.
Train the saved.
Train the saved.
Equip. Who uses that word?
It's an old word, I guess. Are you kidding me, man? You're fired. When you consider training the saved, we're trying to raise people up to obedience to Jesus. There are some traditional things that still count, that still contribute to that.
Yep.
How many churches have in the last 25 years shifted toward, we are going to embrace generosity. So yes, it means money is a part of this conversation. But it's not just treasure, it's also time and talent. So now we're going to create opportunities and ways that people can serve. We're going to track and measure that. All these are good things. All these are good things. I mean, money and generosity is a part of the discipleship conversation, just as being generous with our talent and our time is a good thing to measure. The problem, though, is that I know too many leaders, I know too many people that are attempting to make disciples that are not willing to actually walk in real accountability on some of these things. We hope that the overall number at the church hits the budget. We hope the overall number in the ministry hits the budget, but we are actually never going to have a personal conversation about it with someone else. And guys, until we are willing to make all of these measurements a disciple conversation, a disciple-making conversation, we are missing potential for fruitfulness.
Yeah.
Maybe one more piece of advice I'd give to leaders in particular. I think we need to pay close attention when we talk about decisions for salvation in our churches. How many of these people are already convinced? Are conversions from within? Again, these aren't bad things. My children, I pray all four of them will come to full surrender to Jesus. They are still growing to know the depth of their need for a Savior, and not all of them are there yet. But I pray that all of them abandon themselves and surrender themselves to Jesus, knowing that they need Him. Yeah. And that is a good thing. God continues to move because moms and dads are raising up their kids in church and discipling them. Got to continue to do that.
Yeah.
So that is not to neglect that. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm talking about my own children.
Yeah.
But how many of these people are not from church?
Yeah.
Or don't have a Christian background? These are the things that we need to be paying close attention to if we're going to measure salvation decisions in the church. This is something that we should pay attention to in our church, because you're going to find out a lot about yourself. You're going to find a lot about whether or not our church is actually reaching into the community and seeing the lost come to salvation.
Yeah. That's really good, man. I agree with you. I mean, if we want to see the lost and the broken reached who are outside of our walls, and keeping an eye on what that is would be incredibly beneficial. That's really good, man. Well, we are almost out of time. And this has been, I mean, just an awesome series on these principles, man. Thank you so much for all the just time and energy you've put into this. And we hope it's been beneficial. If you've not caught some of the principles, please go back and take a look. We'd love to have you, just watch them and then reach out to us if there's any questions or comments, or if you need any help or want us to come alongside of you, we would love to. But you can check us out at Discipleship.org. We've got a ton of free resources and books and eBooks that I know would be a blessing to you. But guys, listen, at the end of the day, as you begin to implement these principles and inject them into your personal life and into your ministry, if you need help whatsoever, man, we want to come alongside of you and help. And we want to see your church thrive. We want to see you thrive. And we want to see you become the best disciple possible and make as many more disciples as possible. And let's continue to do this, guys, until there is no place left in the world without the gospel. We love you. Thank you for joining us. And we can't wait to see you in the next session of podcasts that are coming up soon.